Good evening, viewers, and welcome again to Discovering Truth. And I am Pastor Forbes from Abiding Word Ministries, the Gateway in the Gambia. We are now counting literally just 12 days to the end of 2017. And that means, of course, we are around Christmas. And so let me take this joyful opportunity to wish everyone in the country a Merry Christmas in advance and a Happy New Year also in advance. I believe by the grace of God, next week when I am doing the program, it will be Boxing Day, and we would still be in the Christmas mode. As we always say in Wolof, Nati, because 2017 also is going down in history as an unforgettable year, a memorable year, and I really now want to think that it's going to go down more for good than for a bad. It's a year that we cannot forget, but we are grateful to God because every day of this year has counted, and I want to give him particular, special, personal praise, honor, glory, and majesty for what he has done for us. So from myself, from my wife, from my family, and from everybody in the Gateway, Abiding Word Ministries in the Gambia, we say Merry Christmas to us all, certainly to His Excellency the President, Adam Abaro, to the First Family, to all who serve, and to everybody that's made the nation what it is so far. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance to us. Having said that, I think when we cross in 12 days' time into 2018, there's a lot of things about 2017 that would not just become numerically historical, but should become psychologically historical. We must be thinking future forward. We must be spiraling upwards. We must really now run against the tide for what we can do. Whatever the arguments are, 3 years, 5 years, and all the things that we could table, we must bring results now to determine what happens. And that's why last week, by the grace of God, I started this series entitled Stock Taking and Goal Setting. It's a very awesome thing to set goals for a season, a period, be they short, medium term, or long term goals, New Year resolutions, or whatever we call them. But those are best done when we take stock, because stock taking is the 2020 hindsight. Stock taking is the experience of being able to look backwards and say that I should have, I could have, I would have, and making the tweaks and the adjustment that will now make us not say we could have, we should have, we would have nationally into we are and we are doing this. And I remember last week using a phrase guidedly. I said, under God, we must deliberately engineer the outcomes we want for our country. It means that in our stock taking, we must be able really to know what is a Gambian, who is a Gambian, what are the key non-negotiable qualitative characteristics that make us Gambian, what's the unique thing about a Gambian. You know, it's popularly known that everybody knows what the American dream is. For some people, it's a boy and a girl in a family. In some people, it's business entrepreneurial development, and you became a hero from a zero, as they will say. Whatever it is, there is a phrase like that. It's called the American dream. And maybe other nations have that. So we need to be able to find out what is a Gambian dream, what is the Gambian kosher, what really is Gambian. And that is what we will export. Every nation exports something, and certainly, if they want to be known in a legacy way for great things, they export their best. We don't want to be a nation that exports its dregs around. So nations can be misrepresented by the people who come into other countries because they are the hustlers, they are the drifters, they are the people who just are the truants of society. But we don't want to be like that, given especially our size. Our size, less than 2 million people, statistically must be such that every one person matters. It must be something that if one person fails, the entire nation has failed, because we don't have the luxury of 50 million, 100 million, 256 million, or like Nigeria, 160 to 180 million. We are small, and as I've said before, small has its advantage. You need to see how an ant can disturb an elephant, and then you appreciate small. And so we need to be able to answer those questions. The second thing we need to be able to answer when we have found out what is in our stock taking, what is authentically Gambian, is what will a Gambian not do? What will a Gambian not say? What will a Gambian not endorse? And this is not mass psychology, mob mentality, group dynamics, or regional bodies or continent. It's what is Gambia? I have often said, and I was saying just this morning as I spoke with a couple in my office, and I said one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible comes from a particular book called the Songs of Solomon. And those who know me will tell you that's one of his favorite scriptures. In Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, the first chapter, and the second half of verse 6, it goes like this. My mother's sons or my siblings were angry at me because they made me the keeper of other vineyards, yet my own have I not kept. In other words, Solomon knew his primary purpose. He knew his core. He knew what was central to his life, and he was able to delineate between what is central, core, and what is peripheral. So where we are as a country, coming from what we have come from, so almost dramatically in some kind of a soap opera kind of weekly thing that we see made so ubiquitous to every Gambian, we must now say, what are we going to do? What went wrong? What did we miss? What screw went wrong that we got to where we got to? And I believe all we are doing is tightening those screws. So we must come to that point where we look Gambia. We think Gambia. We promote Gambia under God. You know, I watched a little video clip about somebody, and he said when you go, particularly in the US, if you touch somebody anywhere, he says, and I'm an American citizen, I'm German, I'm this, I'm that. But when you come to, and he was referring to his own country, when you come to that particular country, they say, I am this tribe. It's like Gambians saying, I am Mandinka, I am Aku, I am Jola, I am Serer, I am Baribunka. Those are not nationalities. Those are tribes within the country. And so we must be able to think Gambia. Because as I've always said, any person who comes into power can never boast that they were voted massively by just their tribe into power, because no one tribe in the Gambia can give you victory, and they cannot just say I was voted massively by my religion or by my gender, because that would cause all kinds of imbalances in the equilibrium of the Gambian national life, and it would play upon how far we want to develop, because all will have to happen is when somebody else comes from another tribe and becomes the president, then we have the phrase, it's our turn to eat, or as we say, to chop. So we need to be able to stock take, and what is Gambian? Who is Gambian? You know, if I am tribalistic, I am not Gambian, because the other person I am against is also Gambian. If I do religious prejudicial behavior, it's un-Gambian. Outwardly, we say this is the Gambia, the smiling coast, the nice people, the friendly people. Kendu Musa Hifsi Gambia, because you knock on any door you can eat. But that should go beyond the tribe or anything else. And so I tried to enumerate a few things last week. I think the top of my agenda was education, because a lot of the nations that we see advancing are advancing because of a high-profile, upwardly mobile, highly motivated populace. And because most countries tend to have a young population, people are moving forward. There are two nations now in the European Union, and I'm not sure whether this is going to be a trend. One has a prime minister at 37, and the other one has just had one at 31. And so the days of growing up and thinking that the president had to be 96, 75, 66 and refusing to leave power, things are changing. CEOs are in their 25s and their 30s. It means that there is a trend and a tide that we must follow. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if a CEO is at 24, 25, and we have such in this country, then we have longevity, we have mileage for prosperity, generational prosperity. But if one person sits on a chair for too long, then two things happen. Either they topple him by force or her by force, or God removes them, or the people get frustrated and go elsewhere and carry their skill, their intelligence, their ability, their finance, and build other systems. I have often wondered how many Gambians, and I've met a few, how many Gambians are outside of this country doing awesome things. And I'm not just talking about the formal sector, the UNs, the WRs around East Africa and all that. No, 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 no. You will be surprised. But if you ask them, something threw them out. And now we are saying we have something called the New Gambia. So the New Gambia must be welcoming. The New Gambia must create an enabling environment for everybody to fulfill God's distinct purpose for their lives. And that will be legacy for the New Gambia, the present government, transitional or whatever it calls itself, because it's in their time that this happened. So education is key. Other things are important. We're talking a lot about energy. I had the budget speech. We're talking about zircon and ilmenite and so many other things. I'm beginning to wonder, what is really the tourism worldview we have? Is it because sometimes, and I'm open to correction, but I think sometimes I tend to hear us talk about the numbers. The numbers. Numbers are not always a sign of prosperity and progress. Because you see, there can be a growth and a swell and a boil. The boil is not a positive growth. The swell is not a positive growth. Because you see, if you have 20,000 people coming to town and maybe they spend the equivalent cumulatively of 8 very good spenders, why waste your time with 20,000? So I think the numbers are good. We talk a lot about the numbers, but do the numbers really translate into the kinds of prosperity, and not just for the tour operators, not just for the hotels with all-inclusive packages, but the local people, the local community, the taxi drivers, the tourist drivers, the local things. So maybe we need to start looking at high-spending tourists. And I keep saying I will never forget this experience I had a couple of years ago. A friend of mine was coming from Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, about some 5-6 years ago. So I went to pick her at the airport, and she came, and there was a lady sitting next to her on the flight with a baby. And so, I met the lady. I was introduced as Pastor Forbes, and she said, I just wanted to come to a country where I can rest. I just had my baby. I don't have to look for visa and queue somewhere. I've been to UK, I've been to US, I've been to South Africa, I've been to Europe. I just wanted a time to rest. And those were the days when I believe it was either ARIC or Air Nigeria, very likely maybe ARIC, used to promote some kind of weekend tourism in the Gambia. And I think it goes without saying that Nigerians are high spenders for all kinds of reasons, And I have also heard people saying that, man, when Nigerian tourists come here, they spend. So sometimes we have to relook at numbers, we relook at hemispheres, and know that sometimes it could just be around us. I think just yesterday I heard about a Senegalese tourism bike riding tour group of sorts, and I could hear people talking about Senegambia bike tour. Yes, that's possible, and it probably might give a lot more than Paris, Dakar, Banjul, or Dresden. So as we approach 2018, maybe we should start looking at what have been the old tried and tested methods, and with all due respect to Mr. Harding and all the things that we've talked about, tourism and all the hotels and Vingreso and all that, but there have been shifts. There have been shifts. So a woman like that has had a baby and pays money and comes to stay in one of our hotels and enjoys and spends and goes back. She comes on a flight that's, if it's direct, it's 2 hours, 50 minutes, maximum 3 hours, or maybe one stop, and she's here. The temperature is the same. The people look like her. She has a great time. She doesn't complain about being harassed by anybody. Can we build on that? Because if it's a major foreign exchange earner, can we build on it? Because truth is, if we build on that, then the long-spoken 365 days around 12 months year tourism will be a reality, because it's not a tourism dependent on winter tourism. Because Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the rest of Africa, except maybe a few places down south, will not be bothered about winter. So maybe we need to go to the drawing books on a larger scale and make also the tourist product or the tourism product contextualized and relevant in that form. Because we can be doing the same thing year in, year out, and be saying that there are 15 flights coming a week, 12 coming a week, but really when we do the math, is it worth it? And maybe it is. I'm only throwing questions. But is it penny wise and pound foolish? Or dollar-y foolish? So we need to look at that. Because there's got to be certain key things that we drive into 2018 and beyond, because that is unique to us, unique to us, unique to us. I remember the days when it was very easy to see a tourist come from America, and they left America 8 days prior to when we saw them in the Gambia, but we saw them on the 6th day of the 8-day trip. They came to the Gambia for 1 day, went to James Island, and they were going back to Dakar to catch their Delta flight to New York. And so out of the 8-day package, literally 24 hours or a little less or more was devoted to the Gambia. But the Gambia is the place of Roots, Kunta Kinte, and Alex Haley. So how come? Is Gore Island more popular than Jufure globally? So how do we bridge that? Because if somebody flies on an 8-day package and gives you 24 hours, then you definitely do not have the lion's share of their resources. So how do we attract that here? It goes into many things. I said before that I have had the privilege of going to the Bahamas twice, my wife and I, and it's a place we love, because scratch any taxi driver, they will tell you the history, they will tell you everything. And except my experience was wrong, I don't remember being cheated by the taxi driver. Rather, I felt embarrassed because we were going to a place and my iPad was in the driver's car, and I was reluctant to leave it because I wanted to charge it. And he said, okay. I said, all right, I'll take it with me. And then we drove around, and I wanted to pay by my card, and that wasn't possible. And he said, don't worry, you can pay me tomorrow. And I thought, here was I trying to guard my iPad, and here was somebody leaving his payment till the next day. Can we do that? And I'm talking about doing it in global English. So education is a priority in my mind. Tourism is a priority in my mind. I hear we are talking about port expansion and some of the things that will mimic what goes on in Malaysia and Singapore. At least the latter country I have been to, been at one of the top hotels in the world, and was almost disappointed in me, myself, when I saw hotel managers at 25, 27, 28, with impeccable dressing, PR, second to none. And I thought, this is not impossible for us. And so maybe the third thing that we should be thinking about is focusing, again, engineering the focus level of our young people. They must have something that they are zeroing in on. And young people, maybe I can take a minute to talk to you. It's not just all about doing one rap song and going on GRTS and QTV. How many rap songs can we do? There are other things. There are other things. And I know it's great to have all the talent shows and Africa Rising and all the things we do, but, globally sometimes we're just known for music, for singing, for dancing, in the midst of every situation, tragedy and all. I want a light to come on in our lives for 2018, so that collectively, especially if a national vision or blueprint is put before us, that we can all say, well, these are my targets. Because Global competitiveness puts us as one of maybe 290 countries. And there's got to be something that attracts people here. And there's got to be something we export out. Truth be told, ladies and gentlemen, if the inn where Jesus Christ was born on Christmas Day was still available, it would be a tourist site. People want to go there. Again, I've had the privilege of going to Israel twice with my wife, and you can see the tourism there. Just the reality, the enactment, and people want to know things. And so the marketing and the promo of that is second to none. So it means we can do the same. But there's got to be focus. And ladies and gentlemen, whenever focus is mentioned, it means that I have taken time to work out my core value and maybe my core competence and the area that is like the tip of my pen that I can use to pierce the world with. My vision, the uniqueness of what I can give that nobody else can give at my level. And if they do, it's just a counterfeit, it's a photocopy, but I am the original. There are no two Gambias. There's just one. In landmass, topographically, it's small. In population size, it's small. In the year that's about rolling out in 12 days, it has gained global recognition for a transition politically that is mouth-watering to many nations. How do we consolidate this? Because it's almost like God saying, I've given you the chance. I've given you the opportunity. It's on a silver platter. Many people will beg for this. You had it free. So as we take stock and close this year, let the words of Christmas be our reality. Peace on earth and goodwill to all men. Let me rephrase it. Peace to the Gambia. Shalom to the Gambia. The peace of Jesus Christ to the Gambia. And goodwill, not ill will. Goodwill. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody needs to tell any Gambian that your light cannot be brighter when you switch another Gambian's light off. If their light is brighter than yours, come close and add a little bit of your light. And guess what? Yours will be brighter. It will be win-win. Let me ask this question to each one of us. If there was no country on the surface of the earth except the Gambia, would we be prosperous? Would we explore? Or would we fight ourselves? Let's think Gambia as we move into 2018 in the next 12 days. Think Gambia. I am a Gambian. 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 You are a Gambian. Please save me from telling me you are Mandinka, you are Fula, you are a Gambian. Your pride in your passport is Gambia. The flag is Gambian. And that encapsulates everything about all the tribes. Gambian. In so thinking, before you get agitated, peace to the Gambia and goodwill to every person in the Gambia. Will we have very attractive exchanges in terms of viewpoints and policies? Yes, and thank God that the environment is becoming more welcoming to that. But at the end of the day, let us not be self-defeating. Because truth be told, as I said, if the accounting size, we won't matter. Population size won't matter. Land mass, we will matter. But God, in his wisdom and goodness, brought the world's attention to this small country. And I want to say categorically clear that it's in response to the cry of people that we want something, we want change, we want something better. We've all cried about our sons and daughters dying in the oceans. We've all cried about that. All right, so there's repatriation, voluntary repatriation, things with the IOM and the Libyan debacle and all that happening, and the people are coming back home. When they all come back home, the new Gambia should be able to absorb them, because we won't have an excuse if they go again. Let's stock take and let's set goals. Education, tourism, focus, a highly productive and active city. And I think there is something like that in our national vision. So let's work with it. By the grace of God, next Tuesday would be the last for this year. And let me just say Merry Christmas in advance again to each one of us. The peace of Christ upon this nation and the goodwill of God to each one of us. And let's share that peace of Jesus Christ to ourselves. If you have a sword, put it in your sheath. It's Christmas time. And transition in the next 12 days into 2018 with a smile in your face and not with a frown, because God has been merciful to you also, as he has been merciful to our country and to us all. Until I come your way next week by the special grace of God, good evening to us all. God bless us all, and good night.